Well, you thought you were going to get change with Donald Trump, and we're right back in the same place we've always been in. Bombing, war. We have just fired Tomahawk missiles into Syria. This time it is not against ISIS. It is against Bashar al-Assad's government. Trump is talking about something's got to happen with Assad. Something's got to happen. Well, let me tell you what's happening. The military-industrial complex is firmly back in charge. Ben's off the National Security Council. Now, in a lot of ways, thank God. Certainly no fan of his. But McMaster and all of the guys who are part of the normal, industrial complex and the revolving door with the defense contractors, etc., are back in charge, and we're back to bombing like we always do. So now, are you saying? Am I saying that gas attack was not horrific? Of course not. It was horrible. 70 people dead, including kids, as Trump calls them. Beautiful babies were also killed. Yes, that's true. Now, let's talk about what the media focuses on, what the government focuses on. Because we have killed... Now, let's grant us that it's accidental when the U.S. does it. I hope. Okay, so let's grant that. But we have killed hundreds of civilians in our strikes. Hundreds, since Trump has taken office. If you count Obama, in Syria alone, Obama and Trump have killed thousands of civilians. So, and by the way, lots of them children. How come there were not wall-to-wall pictures of the kids that died under our attacks? So I'm not saying that we're just as bad as Assad or whoever did the gassing in Syria. I'm not doing a moral equivalence here. I'm just telling you, it's interesting what the media and what the power establishment focuses on. And with this attack, they kicked into high gear immediately and decided to focus on, okay, these are the 70 civilians that are killed that we are going to decide to care about in Syria. Now, we at the Young Turks have been covering this throughout and cared about all of them. We've been enormously consistent about this. You know how many civilians have died in Syria? 207,000 at a minimum. Do you know how many of those have been kids? 24,000 children, innocent civilians, killed during this Syrian civil war, let alone the millions displaced. And now all of a sudden we care because McMaster is in charge and Donald Trump has been convinced that bombing and war is the right answer. Wait a minute, I thought he said we weren't going to do bombing. It certainly said we were not going to get mired in a mess in the Middle East. He certainly said we weren't going to do wars. Looks like we're in the middle of another war now. On top of the news about the bombing, which you might have heard, what you probably didn't hear is that we're also sending 1,000 new troops in. Did you know we already have troops in Syria? Oh, they're advisors. They always start as advisors, don't they? Now a new 1,000 guys are going to be sent in, and they're going to go and try to displace ISIS in Raqqa. I want ISIS displaced in Raqqa, but I don't want us mired in the middle of a civil war in Syria. So, look, the answers are not easy, and as you look at those kids that were killed, and the media puts that in front of your face, I certainly do, and I hope you do. You feel tremendous sympathy and empathy for the people involved, and look, I don't know that I want you to feel that you want vengeance, but I'm not a great guy. I sometimes want vengeance, but at the same time, I know that you might have seen those 70 pictures, but there's 207,000 pictures behind that you didn't see. So what I want you to start thinking about is, why is it that you see those pictures today? Why is it that we take action today? And you can say, hey, there's legitimate answers. That was a chemical attack. I don't know why Syria, on the doorstep of victory, does a chemical attack, which would then cause the ire of the United States government and cause it to launch missiles from the sea. It seems awfully convenient. I just don't, but I'm not telling you that I have the answers on that. I'm not telling you that I've got all the facts enough to know why all of a sudden there was a media blitz and a propaganda blitz that said we had to go to war because of the last 70 that were killed. And I'm not saying that I have the answers as to their motivations, or the most difficult answer of all, which is what do you do with a mess like Syria? Because there are no easy answers there. But Donald Trump told you there were easy answers. His easy answer was we're not going to get involved in that mess. Well, right now we're knee deep and headed towards neck deep in that mess. So I want you to focus on the facts and not the message put out there by the establishment. And the facts are, folks have been dying, and these poor kids have been dying all throughout the years of this Syrian civil war. It has been a mess and a disaster throughout. It was a mess when Russia was helping Assad and Trump thought it was no big deal. It was a mess when we were killing civilians. So as heartbreaking as the current situation is, it has been equally heartbreaking throughout. But for whatever reason, today is the day that we decided as America that, as usual, we're going to war again. So that war machine hums on, and that's what you saw today. And thus it begins under the Trump administration, as it has always been, whether it was the Obama administration or the Bush administration. We have always been at war. Orwell told us this was coming, and here we are.